It's the Michael Meldish murder scene. Baisley Ave and Ellsworth in the Bronx. Ended up at a party 2 blocks away tonight. But, yeah, this is where they killed Michael Meldish. And the government said it was a mob hit ordered by the bosses of the Lucchese crime family. But I don't know, man. I read a lot about that case. There was a lot of corruption in it. When I say corruption, I mean prosecutorial misconduct. Information that wasn't shared with the defense that should have been. There was, they said it was a mob hit. I don't know. I mean, there was significant evidence putting the shooter and the alleged shooter and the alleged getaway driver at the scene of the murder. A lot of evidence. But whether it was some organized crime, assassination, murder, whatever you want to call it, different question, different story, because it was, if that was the case and it was planned out, it was executed so poorly. But, yeah, there was a lot of evidence putting the alleged getaway driver and the alleged shooter at the scene. That's Chris Londonio, the alleged getaway driver, and Terrance Caldwell, the alleged shooter. But evidence that it was ordered by an alleged mob boss, different question. And those guys really should get a new trial. Whether they were innocent or guilty of that murder, who am I to say? I don't know. But there was, for sure, prosecutorial misconduct and wrongdoing in that case on the part of the government, and especially the case agent, a notoriously corrupt rogue FBI agent named Ted Otto. But, well, if you don't want to go to prison, don't get mixed up in the streets. But at the same time, everyone deserves a fair trial. And yeah, I don't know if it was a so-called mob hit, but maybe it was just a random thing. Because if you read the case and all the stuff that happened in that murder, allegedly, I think it's very possible it was just some random thing that jumped off on the night of November or whatever it was in 2013. I think it's totally possible. It was just just some random thing that went wrong or jumped off or whatever. And it was not in any way a planned, organized crime murder. Because the whole idea, if you're planning it out, it's organized, it's so you can get away with it. But there was so much evidence putting Chris Londonio and Terrance Caldwell at the scene that if they're the ones who if Terrance Caldwell actually pulled the trigger, I think it's very possible it was just some random thing that jumped off. And not some planned thing, because it was executed so poorly that it was like a guarantee they were going to get convicted for it, or at least going to get indicted for it, I should say. You never know what a jury will do or what evidence could come out that could contradict the prosecution's theory of the case. But it was they deserve a new trial, if you ask me, from what I know about that case. But mob hit, I don't know about all that. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. But they claim Matthew Madonna was the acting boss of the Lucchese family. That's what the prosecution and the government contended, and that he organized the Michael Meldish murder, which took place right here, right? Like, I think it was the car was parked right here, and they claim that he passed the order through Steven Crea, who the government said was the underboss, and at times, and really, according to the government, the real acting boss, or he had the respect of an acting boss, according to the government and their cooperators. And they claim that they ordered this murder. But again, I don't know. From what I know about the case and the players involved, I think it's entirely possible it was just some random thing that jumped off, and the government created this whole narrative about a mob hit. I don't know. Who am I to say? I don't know if they were innocent or guilty. I just know there was a lot of wrongdoing in that case. Prosecutorial misconduct. But I don't know. Everyone deserves a fair trial, but this is where it went down. There's the expressway right there, and this is right where Michael Meldish's car was parked. And Michael Meldish and Terrance Caldwell were longtime friends going back decades. Terrance Caldwell was from Harlem. And from what I read about him in the case and people I spoke to that were involved with it, he seemed like a guy that really just never really had a shot. He was destined for failure. But, yeah, the streets are nobody's friend. Not a good way to live. Not a good way to live. And, families get destroyed. If you go to prison, you're a stand-up guy. People say, oh, somebody honored the code. Sometimes it's just about being a man. Like, I can't put somebody else in. I can't put my friend in to get myself out. That's sucker shit. That's corny on so many levels. But even so, it's like you're destroying your family. Most likely you are by getting sent to prison for many years. Especially if you've got kids that got to grow up without you. And at the same time, if you become a cooperator, if you become like a government witness, you go into witness protection or anything like that, I think you're destroying your family on an even bigger level, because now your kids got to look up, oh, my dad's a rat. Or if you're one of these guys that disappears into witness protection, then you abandon your family. It's not cool, man. The streets are nobody's friend. And but was this a mob murder or just some random thing that popped off? I don't know. But yeah, there was a lot of evidence putting Chris Londonio and Terrance Caldwell at the scene, but not a lot of evidence, in my opinion, that it was ordered by Matthew Madonna and Steve Crea, especially Steve Crea. And I think he got a tainted conviction. I think he got a raw deal. He was convicted of other charges too in that case, as was Matthew Madonna. But that murder, I don't think he should have been convicted on that murder. Not on the evidence that the government presented. But what actually happened that night and what the motives were and who the co-conspirators were, we may never know the whole truth about that story. But this is where it happened. The Michael Meldish murder right here at Ellsworth Avenue and Baisley Ave in the Bronx. Nice quiet street. And it's 2025. But yeah, almost 12 years ago, this is where a notorious street guy got one in his head. The streets are nobody's friend. Live a positive life. Love your family. Love the people you care about. Be a stand-up guy and do it without going to prison and destroying your family. And if you have to go to prison, it's a very good friend of mine. His father died in prison doing a life sentence for something he didn't do. And I asked him once, before he died in prison after over 2 decades in prison, but I asked him once, I said, why didn't you cooperate? I'm just out of curiosity, because I know they offered him a cooperation deal to testify against some people. And he said, what was I going to do? I'm going to give up guys that helped me when I had nothing, that had my back when I had nothing. I had no money, I had nothing, and they helped give me a leg up, get me work, get me going in life. I couldn't do that. I grew up with his son, and it sucks to grow up without your father, but to grow up with your father as a government witness that turned on all his friends to save himself and is living in the middle of nowhere, that sucks too. And I think a lot of people will say it sucks more. But yeah, this is where it went down, the Michael Meldish murder. Good night.